Good morning, everybody. So we've finished the articles in the previous lessons, and now we're going to get into the amendments of the United States Constitution. So I'm going to read you the amendments to the Constitution. It's a brief paragraph, then we'll get right into the First Amendment. So on September 25th, 1789, Congress transmitted to the state legislatures 12 proposed amendments, of which the first two dealt with congressional representation and congressional pay. Numbers 3 through 12 were adopted by the state to become the Bill of Rights in 1791. So in effect, amendments number 3 of the proposed 12 is our First Amendment. There is normally a 7-year time limit with the possibility of an extension for an amendment to be approved by 3/4 of the state legislature, 38 states, and to become a part of the Constitution. However, there were no time limitations set for the first 12 proposed amendments. Michigan became the 38th state to ratify the second proposed amendment that dealt with congressional raises on May 7th, 1992. Thus, 203 years after it was introduced, the proposed placing restrictions on congressional pay raises became our 27th Amendment and most immediate change to the Constitution. So, 27 amendments, okay? And that had to do with pay for Congress. It was the 27th Amendment. That was the last amendment, okay? So there's not 28th out there. I see people sending forwards in Messenger and on Facebook about the 28th Amendment. There is no such thing as 28th Amendment, okay? There just isn't. 27 amendments. That's what we're going to cover. That's all there is. So let's get right into it. The Bill of Rights, okay? The Bill of Rights. The first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, were ratified effective December 15th, 1791. So remember that. December 15th, 1791, when the Bill of Rights was ratified. So let's get into the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. So we're going to do these amendments and we're going to do a discussion. So let's get right into the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. First Amendment, freedom of religion, speech, and the press, rights of assembly and petition. That's your First Amendment. Okay. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress or grievance. So what is the First Amendment about? Well, let's take the first one, right? Freedom of religion. It means you can practice whatever religion you want without the government telling you we have a national religion, okay? You got to remember our founding fathers. You got to remember the time this was written. The time this was written was during an oppressive government, the United Kingdom at the time, King George, the King of England, who was in charge of the Church of England at the time. So those who didn't align with the Church of England were chastised, and so they wanted to be able to put in there that they could freely practice whatever faith, whatever religion that they wanted, and so that's what they did. Now, what is the other part of that? It says, or prohibiting, so you can't prohibit people from their religion. You also cannot prohibit, listen to this, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So, if I'm going to church and I'm a church member, right, and I want to go to church, doesn't matter what church it is, whatever your religion is, and you want to assemble, what did it say? The prohibit of free exercise thereof. You want to go and meet, because that's part of your religion. You meet every Saturday on the Sabbath or Sunday on the Sabbath, whatever your religion says, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, who knows? Just whatever it is, right? Here's the thing. It says right here, you can't prohibit the free exercise thereof. You cannot prohibit the free exercise thereof. Now, let's continue. Freedom of speech. Or abridging the freedom of speech. So in this country, you can't, your freedom of speech can't be, you can't stop somebody from saying something, regardless of how radical it is, how crazy it is, whatever the case may be. They have the right to freely say what they feel. Now, there are limitations on that. Okay, there's been case law to prove you can't yell fire in a theater. You can't yell bomb on a plane. These are things that aren't covered under the freedom of speech. So you have the free right to say whatever you want, as long as it's not going to scare somebody, right? You can't go into a movie theater, yell fire unless there's a real fire, or go on a plane and yell bomb on a plane, because those are the things that are not covered in the freedom of speech, because those are things that could cause or terrorize somebody. Okay, so let's not misinterpret what the freedom of speech is, because there are laws that do limit what you say in certain places that might cause fear for no reason. Okay, so let's get that straight. But you do have the freedom to say whatever you want in this country. You can express your feelings, you can express your beliefs freely and openly in this country. Okay, so that's an absolute, there's a lot of countries you can't do that. You can't do that in a lot of countries because they'll throw you in jail, right? You criticize the government. This is one nation that you can criticize your own government, right, without going to jail. Okay, you can criticize. It doesn't matter who's in office. You can criticize your government and not go to jail over it. It's freedom of speech. Okay. Now, the right of the press or the right of the people. So the right of the press, that's part of the freedom of speech, right? So the press can print pretty much what they want. You can see, I mean, look at tabloids like the National Enquirer or stuff like that sometimes is just far-fetched. But you got to vet sources. You got to vet your news. Make sure that if you're watching news, you look at other sources. If you're sticking to one source of news for your news, then you're not getting the complete story. So being retired law enforcement, I can tell you this, there's always three sides of a story. Okay, three sides, not two sides. There's three sides of a story. There's your side, their side, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. Okay, so there's three sides of a story. This side, and somewhere in the middle of both of the sides is the truth. Because what this person saw and this person, let's say you take two witnesses, for instance. Two witnesses that seen the exact same incident. Say it's a car crash. You're going to get two total different responses from two different people. Somewhere in the middle is the truth. So remember, there's always three sides of a story. So when you're watching the news, make sure you get different sources. Don't stick with one source because you'll be led astray. Just telling you now, that's just a tip for press. Because the press can print what they want. And now they can be held liable for libel, right? Could be held liable for libel if they slander somebody and tell a story that's not necessarily true. So let's make sure we know what they're doing. Even though you can say what you want, if you lie about somebody, then that's libel, slander, and you could be held accountable. So there's that. Okay, now let's go to the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition government for redress and grievance. So what does that mean? That means that we can assemble as free people. We're free in this country. We can assemble. We can gather together, and we can assemble, and we can petition the government for redress and grievance. So we can assemble. So people that go up to the Capitol building and want to, fight for their right for whatever the case may be. Whatever is on, maybe they're passing legislation and you want to go support the legislation or you're against the legislation. You have the right to peaceably assemble, gather together on the state capitol and petition for redress or grievance. Okay, so just know that you have the right to do that. Okay, so you have the right to petition, you have the right to peaceably assemble, and to either protest for or protest against something. You have the right to do that to the government. In most countries, you can't do that. You go do that in some countries, everybody gets thrown in jail. Now, that means peaceably assemble. That doesn't mean go over there and try to storm the Capitol because you're mad at something and you're angry and you're not wanting to do it peaceably and you're wanting to attack people. That is not peaceably assembling. Okay, so our Constitution protects people from being injured as well, but it also protects your rights. So you have the right to assemble freely and peaceably, and to be able to for petition of redress and grievance. So that's the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. I know I went a little long, but I want to go in depth in these amendments because I want you to understand what certain things are, right? So assembly means gather together, right? Speech, obviously you can say what you want, regardless of how crazy it might be. You can say what you want. You just can't say certain things in certain places because obviously that could cause panic, right? So just remember, we have the freedoms in this country that most countries don't have. Be blessed that you live in this country where you can actually assemble and petition for a grievance to your own government. Because remember, the government works for we, the people. They don't work, they're not all-knowing, all-encompassing, okay? The government works for us, we the people. We send our representatives, elected representatives, to Washington to represent us, okay? So they represent the people, so it's we the people that they're representing. So remember, you have that right, and always, as always, stay safe, God bless, and hope you learned something out of this. So for my students, what I want you to do on the First Amendment, tell me what the First Amendment means to you. What does that mean to you? What are these freedoms that are given in the First Amendment? What does that mean to you? Looking forward to your responses. God bless. Stay safe. Have a good day.